Imagine for just one moment that your life is not a series of choices you make in real time. Imagine that everything you call destiny, every decision you've ever made at a kitchen table or in a boardroom, is actually the faithful execution of a document. A document written in a language you no longer speak, signed by a hand you do not recognize as your own. You walk through this world wondering why the doors of abundance remain locked no matter how hard you kick. You wonder why gold turns to lead the very second it touches your skin. Why a persistent, corrosive guilt rises inside you every time you dare to contemplate true freedom. Not just paying the bills freedom. I am talking about total, unapologetic, celestial freedom. You think you have a financial problem. You think you need a better strategy, a newer ritual, more discipline, more willpower. But the truth, the cold, merciless, celestial truth, is that you are simply an employee of a ghost. You are fulfilling the terms of a spiritual scarcity contract that was drafted long before you drew your first breath. Think with me for a moment. Have you noticed a number? A specific number that seems to be the invisible ceiling of your life? A value you can never quite stay above for long. You climb, you work, you struggle, and then, like clockwork, something happens. An unexpected bill, a car breakdown, a relationship that drains your energy and your wallet, a business deal that mysteriously falls apart at the last second. And you return. You always return to that same number, that same level of difficulty. This is not coincidence. This is not bad luck. This is a contract being executed with surgical precision. Most people live and die without ever realizing they are bound by these invisible legalities of the soul. They believe in the economy. They believe in the market, never knowing that their subconscious is a meticulously organized archive of ancient agreements. Agreements made in the dark. Agreements made in the name of survival. Where does a contract like this begin? It doesn't start in a boardroom. It doesn't start with a conscious decision you made as an adult. It begins in the resonance of the womb. It begins in the whispers you heard before you even had words to understand them. It begins in the smell of anxiety, the scent of a mother who loved you deeply, but who was also terrified about the rent while she carried you in her body. You absorbed it all, every sigh, every muffled conversation behind closed doors after you were supposed to be asleep. Every time you heard, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "Who are we to want so much?" You were born into an energy field, a family constellation that had established the laws of the possible for people like us long before you arrived. This is the invisible origin of your stagnation. Your signature was forged in her silence. It was pressed by the calloused hands of a father who believed his worth was measured by the length of his exhaustion. It was stamped by grandparents who survived wars and crises and learned that the best survival strategy was to never stand out, to never want too much, to never bother fate by asking for more than a crumb. They did this to survive, and it worked. They survived, and they passed this strategy to you as if it were wisdom, as if it were protection. But what protected them in a world of real scarcity is destroying you in a world of real possibility. Here is the secret mechanism. A child's primal motivation is not prosperity. It is belonging. A child doesn't think about wealth. A child thinks, I need to be accepted. I need to be loved. I must not be abandoned. And to ensure that belonging, you became a mirror of the tribe. If your tribe believed money was dirty, you learned to feel repulsion for it. If they believed the rich are greedy, you learned to sabotage yourself before you could look greedy. You traded your gold for their acceptance. Every contract has clauses, tiny legalistic details hidden in the footnotes. And your scarcity contract is no different. These specific clauses, written in the darkest folds of your psyche, govern every financial decision you have ever made. Today, we name them, because a demon without a name has infinite power, but a named demon begins to shrink. The first is the Holy Sufferer Clause. This is perhaps the most dangerous of all. It is the subconscious belief, often reinforced by distorted religious echoes, that there is moral superiority in lack. It tells you that being poor makes you purer, more spiritual, closer to the divine. Have you ever heard that money is the root of all evil? Or that it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven? To your subconscious, these are not metaphors. They are direct orders. Do not prosper, or you will lose your soul. The Holy Sufferer wears poverty like a badge of honor. You receive a twisted form of validation from your tribe. They look at your struggle and they say, you are one of us. You are a good person because you suffer as we do. But hear me clearly. Scarcity is not a virtue, and a universe that wanted you to suffer would not be worthy of your devotion. Then we have the burden clause. This is the belief that money is not neutral energy, but a heavy, crushing responsibility that will alienate you from everything you love. You see the wealthy on the screen and you see them lonely, hated, and disconnected. Your subconscious registers, money equals isolation. So when money begins to flow toward you, the part of you that signed the contract starts to open the energy drain. It's an invisible hole in your pocket where money disappears before it can ever work for you. Your car breaks down the moment you save. A relative appears with an emergency. These are not accidents. They are the enforcement agents of your contract, ensuring you stay within the safe limits of the agreement. In the deep architecture of your soul, all these clauses are held together by a single archetypal figure, the martyr. The martyr is the cornerstone of the scarcity contract. It is the character living at the center of your internal stage, directing every move with an iron fist, even if it wears a smile. The martyr believes with every fiber of its being that your value derives entirely from the extent of your sacrifice, that you deserve love, respect, and recognition in exact proportion to what you give up. This belief looks like altruism on the surface, but it is one of the most destructive forces a human spirit can house. In the world of finance, the martyr manifests in very specific ways. You give when you have nothing to give. You lend money knowing you won't get it back, but you do it anyway, because to refuse would mean you value money over people. You say yes to expenses you cannot afford because a no makes you feel selfish. You pay everyone else's bills before your own. This is a distortion of the celestial order. A sun that radiates all its heat until it consumes itself benefits no one. It leaves a solar system in the dark. To break this, we must shift from the martyr to the alchemist. The alchemist knows that resources are not taken from others. They are created through the resonance of self-worth. Prosperity is not a zero-sum game. When you rise, you are not stealing from the poor. You are creating a field of possibility that didn't exist before. You were not sent here to be consumed. You were sent here to be a source. Before we transmute this contract, we must identify its executors, the internal voices that ensure the terms are met day after day, decision after decision. These voices do not sound like orders. They sound like reason. They sound like common sense. They sound like protection. The first voice is calculated modesty. It whispers, "Don't mention your success or they'll think you're bragging." It stops you from asking for what you are worth. It uses humility as a shield for self-devaluation. How many times have you accepted less than you deserved because asking for the fair price felt arrogant? Then there is the voice of rationalized limitation. This voice converts every opportunity into a risk, and every risk into a catastrophe. Yes, it looks like a good deal, but what if it fails? What if you lose it all? What if you aren't capable? This voice presents itself as prudence, but real prudence evaluates risk. This voice invents it. And finally, the most insidious of all, anticipated guilt. This voice doesn't appear when you fail. It appears when you are about to succeed. When the money starts arriving, it whispers, "What about your family? What about those you left behind? Are you going to become one of those people?" It punishes you preventively for the crime of prospering. Have you felt it? That vague anxiety when things start going well? That is the anticipated guilt executing the contract. Identifying these voices does not silence them instantly, but it begins the most crucial process of all. You stop being the voice, and you start being the observer of the voice. And the observer is free. We must speak about the price, the real price. Not in abstract terms, but in concrete, measurable facts that are painful to look at directly. How much time have you spent being loyal to this contract? Think in terms of decades. If you are 30, perhaps it has been 2 decades of decisions shaped by invisible clauses. If you are 40, perhaps it has been 3. 40 years of hard work significantly directed toward confirming the limits of an agreement you never consciously chose. Every year of loyalty to this contract has a compound cost. It is not just the money that didn't come. It is the version of you that never emerged. It is the relationships that never formed because you kept yourself too small to attract those operating at a higher frequency. It is the projects that never left the paper because the voice of rationalized limitation arrived before your courage. And there is an even higher cost, the generational cost. If you have children, or if you are around children who observe you, you are at this very moment transmitting your energy field to them. They are learning not from your words, but from the frequency of your anxiety, from the weight of your limitation, from the geometry of the possible that you draw around yourself. You can break the contract for yourself, but by doing so, you break it for them. You interrupt a generational transmission that has passed through God knows how many ancestors before reaching you. This is what is truly at stake here. It is not just your bank account. It is the lineage you will leave behind. We have reached the heart of this transmission. How do we annul a contract signed in the subconscious? How do we rescind an agreement made not with words, but with emotions, neurons, and the chemistry of childhood fear? The answer is, we do not fight the contract. Fighting it would use the very energy of the contract against itself. Resistance generating more resistance. We transmute it. We alchemize it. Step 1. The inventory of clauses. You must identify your personal clauses. Ask yourself, what is the invisible financial ceiling of my family? When I think about having 10 times what I have today, what is the first physical sensation in my body? Is it guilt? Is it fear? That is a clause revealing itself. Step 2. Financial forgiveness. This must be done in 2 directions. First, forgive your ancestors. They didn't give you a map to the desert out of malice. They gave you the only map they knew. Second, and this is the hardest, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the years you spent as the executor of your own contract. For the moments you knew you were sabotaging yourself and couldn't stop. That version of you was doing what it knew how to do. Now you know more, and that changes everything. Nature abhors a vacuum. When you rescind the old contract, you must have a new one ready to occupy that space. Because the absence of a scarcity contract is not enough. The absence of limitation is not the same as the presence of abundance. You must sign a new agreement, this time consciously, this time with your own hand, this time with the ink of your sovereignty. The new contract says, I have the right to prosper without losing who I am. It says, abundance and spirituality are not opposites. They are different expressions of the same fullness. It says, I can care for those I love from a place of strength, not sacrifice. It says, my prosperity does not diminish anyone else's. It creates new possibilities for every energy field that touches mine. This new contract is not a set of affirmations you repeat, hoping they become true. It is a set of principles you begin to embody in small gestures, in daily decisions. Every time you charge what you are worth, you are signing. Every time you receive without guilt, you are signing. Every time you invest in yourself without needing to justify the expense, you are signing. The universe reads fluency, not intention. You must begin to move as if you are already there. We have reached the end of the second layer of our journey. Today you went beyond a conversation about money. You descended into the foundations of your psyche and looked directly at what was supporting the structure of your limitation. This is the hidden truth of day 2. The contract always depended on your ignorance to survive. It has no power before a spirit that knows it by name. Before you sleep tonight, I want you to perform a physical exercise. Not mental, physical. Take a piece of paper and a pen. Write down the name of one clause you recognized in yourself today. The one that resonated the most. The one that made you look away. Write it down, look at it, and then, over those words, in your own handwriting, write, "This contract is null. I am the sovereign." In the comments below, tell me, which clause did you burn today? Your words are the first ink of your new agreement. Share this frequency with 5 people who are still being employed by ghosts. Let them know the office is closed. The contract is over. Tomorrow, day 3, we will speak of your mother's voice. How it still echoes in your pocket, in your decisions, in the way you link love and money. Breathe deeply. Fill the space where fear used to live. The gold is already sensing the force of your new gravity. The stars are witnessing your new signature. We are in this together. Your empire starts right now.